The Airstrike campaign is wrapping up, and it's time to weigh in on whether the event and the introduction of aircraft carriers into World of Warships Legends was a hit or a miss. Inquiring minds want to know how you feel about the campaign. Did you enjoy your first experience playing carriers? Did you feel like the Airstrike mode was designed in a way to show the full extent of their strengths and weaknesses? Or did you even have enough time to try out carriers with the need to grind out Siegfried in the Dragon Slayer campaign? We'd love to hear your answers to these questions in the comments section below. And don't forget to visit a social media page from Wargaming to get a link to a survey where you can give feedback to the development team directly. So let's attack this survey by jumping straight to the burning question. How did carrier gameplay and balance rate given their current form? I have to agree with some of the posts on Discord and Reddit that carriers generally felt underpowered. But the key question to ask is if it is the ships themselves, or is it the design of the game mode that makes them feel that way? I personally think the design of the Airstrike mode itself is more to blame, and it prevented carriers from performing their best for the following reasons. The bot programming in Airstrike mode had a major and possibly unintended impact on carrier performance. It seems like almost every game I had, bots who had lost the will to live were ram killing one another really early in the match, taking multiple ships off the map that you could no longer attack with your carrier, impacting the pace of play for CVs and their ability to accumulate meaningful damage and results. Surface ship players were incentivized to just take out either destroyers or their very best performing anti-aircraft ships. With so much Yahagi, Texas, Helena, California, and other stacked anti-aircraft platforms, it made it really hard for planes to survive too long. And attacking the enemy carrier was no picnic either because they have extremely strong AA as well. A third performance drain on carriers was single unit control, which resulted in either being attacked too early because you set the ship to move forward, or penalized you in a different way for parking too far away to avoid surface ship detection, resulting in a lot of boring flight time. The bottom line is that we need to have an autopilot system of some kind like PC has, or the ability to jump between controlling the ship and the planes. Summed up, I gave the current form of carriers 3 out of 5 stars because the play was fun, but the event made CVs feel underpowered and less impactful on the scoreboard. I had a hard time getting out of the middle of the scoring pack, as did my opponents, and personally only had a small number of games where I was among the leaders, so it just didn't feel like you were having a major impact on the game, even when the stats showed that you did pretty well. Now that said, on balance, I prefer carriers to be dialed up going forward instead of being insanely overpowered to begin with. And again, I think this had as much to do with the mode as it did to do with the carriers themselves. Now with regard to playing against aircraft carriers with surface ships, I think it felt very easy as compared to what I am used to on PC. Now this is partly due to the ship selection bias we just talked about, people taking out their strong anti-aircraft ships, and yes, I was part of that problem, but most ships seemed to shred 2 to 3 planes or an entire squadron off the initial attack run if they were strong. Some ship anti-aircraft and fighter combos seemed super strong, especially at tier 5, and this was without any added consumables like defensive fire. There was mention by Wargaming that Ship AA did not receive a material rebalancing prior to the event, and my experience reflects that. Lastly, with most of the players being new at commanding CVs, it naturally makes sense that it's easier to counter the planes if you have any experience in dodging planes from PC like I do. If you are new to the whole carrier experience and don't try to change your speed and direction to counter an air attack, it might have been a bit more difficult for you, but either way, balancing will be required using data from the test to fix this situation going forward and make it a little harder as a surface ship to counter planes. Therefore, I gave the experience a 3 out of 5. Alright, so let's step back from the role of critic for a minute and talk about game mechanics and feel from an Airstrike perspective. I found the carrier gameplay itself to be fun and engaging. I really like that there are some new skills to learn, a unique aerial twist on situational awareness, and the ability to use the minimap and game knowledge I already have about ship types to my advantage. Graphically, things work for me as well. I was pleasantly surprised with how the game looks on my Xbox One, and I know more improvements will come to the sound and visuals as we move on to the next generation consoles. From an aircraft perspective, I played way more torpedo bombers due to having a limited amount of time to play. They're my first choice because their attacks are more similar to surface ship maneuvers and they felt really intuitive and comfortable. Though in the guide I put together on torpedo bomber tips, there are definitely ways to refine your technique and to increase your damage output a lot. While torpedo bombers felt straightforward, I liked that the dive bomber attacks were quite different and a more technically difficult challenge. It's exciting to me that there's a good amount of future effort I can put into mastering these different techniques, especially when it comes to hitting faster and more shifty targets like cruisers and destroyers. On top of that, there's elements like spotting for my team as a carrier player, using my fighter cover effectively, and working together in divisions. They're all things that we can look forward to getting better at out on the horizon. From an effectiveness standpoint, you need a number of hits to do significant damage with torpedoes or HE bombs, and I am fine with that. I've lived with carriers when they could cross-drop and dev strike you on PC, seemingly at will when the carrier was in the hands of a good player, and I do not want to go there again. And speaking of Commanders King and Yamaguchi, I think the choices of direct skills available for them were fine. I personally went all in on plane performance and damage buffs, but the inspirations were really limited due to the nature of having just the 2 CV commanders available for the event. It really wasn't explained clearly that the inspirations did not buff planes, just the CV itself, so outside of Sims for bonus ship XP and Inigo for reduced ship damage, there didn't really seem to be many other legitimate choices, but this should hopefully change once there's a full launch and more commanders are available. Given those parameters, we'd give the CV commanders a 3 out of 5. So WG put the really big question first, and we've saved it here for last. It's tackling the overarching question of whether or not the airstrike event itself was a success. In 4 years of World of Warships, this was my first experience in carriers, and I was excited to play them. And as the event draws to a close, I can say that I'm still excited about CVs coming out in a future patch as well. On balance, Airstrike was successful for me and I enjoyed it, but I did have some mixed feelings too. So aside from the gameplay and the ships themselves, let's run down some of the key takeaways of the event itself. On the positive side, while the games with more human opponents were definitely more fun and challenging, I did appreciate the design using bot and human hybrid rosters to get things loading quickly and smoothly. We also mentioned the gameplay overall was fun at its core, and it allows for both room for growth and long-term mastery. On the development side, I didn't enjoy that Airstrike mode was basically set up as a side quest. It didn't count towards the main Dragon Slayer campaign, and the fact that we couldn't roll over stages from week to week on Dragon Slayer during the Airstrike event is a real bummer. I would have played a lot more Airstrike if we could have. If you're set on organizing Airstrike as a side quest, then why not give it more unique rewards as an incentive to play more games? Now, I don't want to say it's a bad thing to get some free Royal Navy heavy cruiser crates, that's fine. But the closest thing I can think of is during the alpha test period, where if we played a certain number of games, we attained things like an alpha flag, a special patch, or even getting different premium ships with unique camos that commemorated the event. I know collectors like me, again, would have played far more games if an option like this was possible. Furthermore, I know collecting this data on carriers was really important. So why not give out some steel for playing Airstrike 2? Why save that for just the top 1% of arena mode players? At least the XP and credit earnings were surprisingly good in this mode. Kudos to WG for that, but I think it could have been a lot more popular if it were more flexible, applicable to Dragon Slayer, or there were more unique rewards. So overall, we give the Airstrike event a 3 out of 5 for fun and engaging gameplay, but some issues with the design of the mode and a little bit of lack of creativity with the rewards for playing it. But our aim isn't to be overly critical here, as it is tough to design a mode that is both a controlled experiment to accumulate data and a fulfilling player experience all wrapped up in one. Players may not see the value of the data collected now and how this will improve the future experience of introducing carriers into the wild and standard. So they might just see the things that weren't perfect and kind of get disappointed about that, when on balance we hope this was a great event that helped WG pave the way for a smooth carrier implementation down the road, which is the most important thing. Going forward, I feel like carriers definitely need a performance buff overall, but part of that may be solved simply by moving out of the constraints of the mixed bot airstrike mode and into standard battles themselves. Introducing armor-piercing bombs for the dive bombers and doing some rebalancing of plane performance and ship AA based on the test data will be another key step. Lastly, at this point, I would hold off on considering anti-aircraft boost consumables like defensive fire and rocket attack planes, which would just make things more complicated by introducing more moving parts. WG didn't ask for it, but we are giving an all things considered rating of 3.5 out of 5 stars. I really give WG an A for effort on this overall carrier implementation. They were thoughtful and smart in keeping it in its own mode and out of standard battles where things really could have gone awry quickly, but the game mode itself had a few flaws and the rewards could have been more flexible or more unique. While carriers are definitely still a work in progress, I think Airstrike has been a really solid first step, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for carriers in World of Warships Legends. As we said at the top of this video, don't forget to offer your feedback. Put it in the comments section below on Reddit or Discord, and do the survey from Wargaming too. Your feedback goes straight to the devs. Hey, catch us for a live stream here on YouTube or on Twitch, or check out our growing library of game tips, guides, and other World of Warships Legends content here on my YouTube channel. Best of luck to you in your continuing pursuit of the Dragon Slayer campaign. I just want to end with saying I am VannKraken, and I am out.